To understand the silence, you must first understand the noise. They called it the Manchester of South India. Coimbatore wasn't just a city, it was an engine, a grid of concrete and ambition. Every street corner vibrating with the thrum, thrum, thrum of power looms, spinning cotton into gold. If you closed your eyes, you wouldn't smell flowers, you would smell money. It was a machine that never slept. The loudspeakers fighting the temple bells, the T-boys running through traffic, the heat of 1,000 factories. It was a city of rhythm. Perfect, loud, alive. And then came one fine day. February 14th, 1998. The day the clock struck 3:50. It wasn't a bang. It was a hole punch through the eardrum of the city. The looms stopped. The birds stopped. Even the dust seemed to hang suspended in the air. And then the swarm began. Not one siren, but 1,000. A chorus of wailing mechanical ghosts rising from the smoke. The Manchester of the South had just stopped spinning. It didn't stop at the railway station. That was just the opening bell. The cycle stand where the workers parked their livelihoods was now a twisted sculpture of chrome and bone. Then Shanmuganandam Road. The blast tore through the waiting crowd. Shoes without owners scattered across the tarmac like confetti. But the devil went to the General Hospital. 4:05 p.m. An ambassador car rolled up to the gates. It carried death in the trunk. The blast turned the very entrance of healing into a slaughterhouse. Nurses, patients, wiped out in a blink of white heat. West, east, north, the map was bleeding. The timber mart, the commercial towers, and finally, the R.S. Puram police station. The heart of the law, ripped open by the most powerful charge of them all. 12 blasts, 11 locations, 40 minutes that turned a city of industry into a city of ash. The view from 3,000 feet is a liar. From up here, the smoke columns look like incense sticks. Orderly. Quiet. Agent Venkat tightened his seatbelt. He was 24, top of his class at the academy. He knew the theory of counterterrorism. He knew the history of the RNAW. But he didn't know the smell. The moment the door slid open, the smell hit him. Cordite, burning rubber, and something copper like old coins or dried blood. He stepped onto the tarmac, and for the first time in his life, his hands were shaking. The briefing room was a requisition school hall. Maps taped over the blackboard, ashtrays overflowing. The city police commissioner looked like he hadn't slept in a week.
Gentlemen, listen up. Here is the situation as of 1800 hours. 12 blasts, 58 confirmed dead, 200 plus injured. The state government has acted fast. Al-Ummah and the Jihad Committee have been banned, effective immediately. Chennai police have just raided a house in Triplicane. They have S.A. Basha in custody. We have the head of the snake, but the body is still thrashing.
Venkat raised his hand. Sir, do we have eyes on the other cells? The commissioner shook his head.
We are blind, Agent Venkat. The grid is down. The phones are jammed. We don't know who is left or what they have left to throw at us.
Control. This is B1 Patrol. We have movement at Thirumal Street. Babulal Complex. Taking fire. I repeat, taking fire.
The room froze. The commissioner grabbed the radio.
All units, converge on Thirumal Street. Go.
In urban warfare, geometry is God. The Babulal complex was a two-story trap. The hostiles held the high ground, the second-floor windows facing east. Anyone walking through the front door was a target. To breach the door, you need to blind the window. Venkat watched the NSG snipers take position on the opposite rooftop. They weren't there to kill. They were there to keep heads down. Suppressive fire buys time, and time buys entry. There is a concept in close quarters battle called the fatal funnel. It is the cone of light in front of a doorway where bullets naturally converge. If you stand in the funnel, you die. The objective is simple physics, violence of action. You must enter faster than the enemy can process. It takes the human brain 0.25 seconds to recognize a threat, and another 0.25 seconds to pull a trigger. The breacher lives in that half-second gap. He doesn't look, he flows, like water finding the cracks. But speed cannot murder discipline. The NSG doctrine is clear. Every room is a hostage room until proven otherwise. You do not spray, you discriminate. The stack is a machine made of men. Number 1 is the shield. He takes the hits. Number 2 is the lethal. He takes the shot. Their eyes must process a face, a weapon, a child, in less time than it takes to blink. A miss is acceptable. A civilian casualty is a failure of the soul.
Go! Go!
The glass shattered and the street exploded. The sniper rounds cracked the air like whips, forcing the shooters back from the windows. The team hit the door. Venkat was pinned behind the jeep, listening to the music of the caliber. The high whine of the police rifles against the deep chugging roar of the AKs inside. He counted the bursts. 1, 2, 3, then a jam. The rhythm broke. Inside the room, someone panicked.
Sierra 1 has visual. Threat is priming device.
Through the scope, the sniper on the roof saw it. A figure in the window, pulling the pin on a pipe bomb. He was winding up to throw it straight down the stairwell onto the heads of the entry team. The sniper had no choice. He didn't wait for permission. He exhaled. The shot was perfect. Center mass of the cranium. The terrorist collapsed instantly. But his hand opened. The primed bomb didn't go out the window. It fell inside. It wasn't a grenade. It was bigger. That one spark fell into a room stacked with gelatin. The windows didn't just break, they breathed out. A massive orange exhale that turned the second floor into the ground floor. The shooting stopped because there was no one left to shoot. The sniper had saved the team by vaporizing the enemy. Venkat walked through the settling dust. He looked at the crater where the intelligence used to be. A dead terrorist cannot be interrogated. A dead terrorist keeps his secrets. They had won the firefight, but they had lost the map. East Lokamanya Street, R.S. Puram. This is where the money lives. Big gates, bougainvillea spilling over the walls, expensive cars in the driveways. Usually at 8 a.m., you would hear temple bells and the slap of newspapers hitting the porch. Today, you only hear the wind. The families are there, hiding behind their curtains, watching the white ambassador car parked illegally at the corner, praying for normal to come back. To understand the fear, you must understand the machine. The car is not just a vehicle. It is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, or VBIED. And inside the trunk sits a masterclass in chemistry and cruelty. At the heart is the main charge: 70 kilograms of high-grade gelatin. This isn't dynamite. It is a blasting slurry, a mix of ammonium nitrate and nitroglycerine. Stable enough to transport, but volatile enough to level a city block. Buried inside the gelatin are the electric detonators. These are small copper tubes filled with lead azide. They are the spark plugs. And controlling the spark is the firing chain. A 9-volt battery connected to a mechanical timer. A simple alarm clock, modified with a screw on the hour hand. When the screw touches the contact, the circuit closes. The battery dumps its energy into the detonator. The lead azide explodes, and the gelatin follows, expanding at 26,000 feet per second. But the bomb maker was not an amateur. He left gifts for the disposal team. Anti-handling devices. A collapsing circuit on the battery. If you cut the power wire, the voltage drop triggers a secondary relay and it blows. A mercury tilt switch under the chassis. If you try to tow the car or even jack it up, the liquid mercury slides, completes the connection, and it blows. You cannot move it. You cannot unplug it. You have to perform surgery on a patient that wants to kill you. The bomb disposal specialist from the NSG approaches the trunk. He is not holding wire cutters. He is holding a disruptor. It looks like a shotgun, but it fires a slug of water. The theory is hypervelocity separation. The water moves faster than the electrical signal. The goal is to shear the detonator away from the gelatin milliseconds before it can fire. The water jet hits. The circuit breaks. The clock stops ticking. Outside the cordon, 1,000 people finally remember to breathe. If that water jet had missed, even by a millimeter, history changes. 70 kilograms of gelatin creates a lethal overpressure wave of 3,000 psi. The blast radius would have been 400 meters. The R.S. Puram police station, gone. The commercial complex collapsed. The families watching from their windows, erased before the glass even broke. But it didn't happen. Because one man in a heavy suit walked toward the death that everyone else was running from. The police community hall had been turned into a morgue. Not for bodies, but for evidence. Venkat sat at a folding table, counting the cost of hate. The numbers were not just statistics, they were an indictment. 58 dead, 200 injured. But the seizure list, that was the real horror story. 540 pipe bombs, 210 gelatin sticks, 1,100 electrical detonators. This wasn't a protest. This was an arsenal designed for a civil war. Venkat picked up a deactivated pipe bomb. Simple plumbing. A galvanized iron pipe, threaded at both ends. When the powder inside ignites, the pressure builds until the metal fails. It doesn't burn you, it shreds you. The pipe itself becomes the bullet. Next to them, the gelatin sticks. Not dynamite. This is a slurry, a mix of ammonium nitrate and nitroglycerine. It looks like wet clay, safe to handle, until you introduce the third element, the detonator. A small copper tube, no bigger than a cigarette filter, filled with lead azide. It is the only part of the bomb that is sensitive. The detonator is the match. The gelatin is the bonfire. Venkat looked at the mugshots spread across the table. Al-Ummah, the Jihad Committee. Names that sounded grand in their manifestos, but looked small in the harsh light of a police station. S.A. Basha, the so-called president. A man who ordered the death of nurses and tea-boys from the safety of his home in Chennai. Muhammad Ansari, the General Secretary. Men who claim to fight for justice by planting bombs in a cycle stand where laborers parked their only means of transport. And in the middle of the file lay the true objective. Operation Human Bomb. The target was not the city. The target was L.K. Advani. 3 suicide bombers, waist belts loaded, waiting in the crowd. They were minutes away from decapitating the political leadership of India. But fate is a strange mechanic. A flight delay, a missed connection. Advani's plane landed late. The bombers couldn't penetrate the sterile zone. The history of a nation saved by a schedule change. Venkat closed the file. The police had the leaders. They had the foot soldiers. But as he looked at the mountain of gelatin sticks, the math didn't add up. 200 kilos of explosives don't move themselves. They don't walk out of a quarry and into a car trunk. Someone bought them. Someone transported them. Someone who wasn't in the mugshots. The hands were in cuffs, but the legs were still running. The board is full of names. Dead men. Captured men. But the math is broken. Terror isn't magic, it's logistics. Money, men, materiel. Start with the materiel. 210 gelatin sticks, batch number A49, mining grade. That doesn't just fall off a truck. You need a license to buy it. You need a signature to move it. The reports confirm the route. The explosives were sourced from the quarry belts of Andhra, Karnataka, and Kerala, moved in separate trucks, hidden in commercial buses, buried under sacks of rice in tractors. 3 different states, 3 different supply lines, all converging on the outskirts of Coimbatore for assembly. That requires coordination. That requires a dispatcher. Now, the money. The Hawala transcripts tell a dirty story. S.A. Basha sent videos to the Gulf, graphic tapes of the riot victims, propaganda designed to open wallets in Dubai and Riyadh, charity for the widows. But reading the interrogation logs of the Hawala brokers, the truth spills out. Basha didn't just fund the bombs, he funded his vices. A large percentage of the donations never bought explosives. It bought gold. It bought silk. It bought women. And where did the rest go? Real estate, shopping complexes in Chennai, investments in the film industry. The so-called soldiers of God were busy becoming landlords and producers. They preached austerity to their recruits while checking the box office returns. They weren't fighting for paradise. They were fighting for a portfolio. Parasites, growing fat on the blood of their own cause. Venkat drew a circle around the empty space in the middle of the chart. We have the greedy leader. We have the fanatical foot soldiers. But the logistician? The man who coordinated the trucks from 3 states? The man who managed the inventory without getting caught? He isn't in the cell. He isn't dead. He isn't buying movie rights. He is the one who bought the chemicals. He is the one who stitched the bomb vests. He is the operational brain that made the body move. We haven't caught the architect. We've only caught the bricklayers. The architect is already packing his bags. The interrogation of the drivers broke the dam. They didn't know the bomb maker's face, but they knew his address. A small shop in Ukkadam, where the fabric for the suicide vests was cut. The convoy moved out at midnight. Tamil Nadu commandos, Intelligence Bureau, and Venkat. A sledgehammer aimed at a thumbtack.
Police, hands up!
The door splintered. The flashlight swept the room. Venkat leveled his weapon, waiting for the return fire. But the darkness didn't shoot back. The room was empty, just a ceiling fan spinning slowly in the draft. Venkat walked to the workbench. The air smelt of sulfur and burnt cotton. It wasn't a tailor shop. It was a laboratory. On the table, soldering irons still warm, half-stripped wires, and blueprints, not for shirts, but for vests designed to carry death. Diagrams of where to place the switch so it sits perfectly over the human heart. But the real surprise was in the drawer. Hidden under the religious texts was a stack of magazines. European porn, gay erotica, the kind of filth they preached against in the streets. Venkat actually laughed. It was absurd. The holy warriors, the pure soldiers of God, were just repressed men with dirty secrets. They build bombs to purify the world while hiding their own sins under the mattress. Pathetic. Venkat brushed the dust off a ledger next to the sewing machine. A rental agreement. A name. Raja. tailor Raja. He touched the coffee cup on the table. Cold. He was gone. While the city was burning, the logistician had slipped through the smoke. Venkat looked at the empty chair. He didn't feel defeat. He felt a contract being signed. Run, Raja. Run north. Run west. Change your name. Grow a beard. It doesn't matter. You can hide for a year. You can hide for a decade. But the file is open. And Agent Venkat never forgets. Agent Venkat will be back. To be continued.